The stars looked different tonight above Pinewood Hollow, Tennessee. Not that anyone in town was paying attention. It was a Thursday evening, which meant half the population of 847 souls was at Rusty's watering hole, arguing about football and drinking cheap beer. Commander Zelthor of the Zarketh Expeditionary Fleet looked down at the small cluster of lights on his display screen. His three eyes blinked in sequence as he studied the data. This human settlement was perfect for their test, small, isolated, far from any military installations. The molecular dissolution weapon had never been used on a populated area before, and Command wanted results. "Begin the targeting sequence," Zelthor ordered. His crew of 30 moved efficiently around the scout ship's bridge. The larger fleet hung back in high orbit, safely away from any potential malfunction. This was why they sent the scout ship down first. Below, Sheriff Emma Reeves was trying to break up an argument between Dale Hutchins and his brother Travis about whose truck was better. She had been sheriff for 3 years and had learned that Thursday nights always brought out the stupid in people. "I'm telling you, Emma," Dale said, waving his beer bottle around. "A Ford can outpull a Chevy any day of the week." Emma rolled her eyes. "Dale, I don't care if your truck can outpull a freight train. Just keep your voice down before someone throws a punch." She walked outside to get some fresh air. The night was cool and clear. She looked up at the stars and frowned. Was that one moving? It seemed brighter than the others and getting bigger. On the scout ship, Zelthor watched his weapons officer charge the molecular dissolution beam. The weapon was designed to break down all organic and technological matter at the molecular level. In 30 seconds, the town below would simply cease to exist. Nothing would remain except dirt, rocks, and trees. The Zarketh would have their data, and the humans would never know what happened. Firing in 10 seconds, the weapons officer announced. Zelthor felt satisfied. This would earn him a promotion. The weapon charged with a high-pitched whine that resonated through the ship's hull. 5 seconds. 4. 3. 2. The sun burped. 93 million miles away, a solar flare erupted from the sun's surface. The wave of electromagnetic radiation raced across space at the speed of light. It hit Earth's magnetic field just as the Zarketh weapon fired. The molecular dissolution beam left the scout ship in a perfect stream of purple energy. Then it hit the wave of solar radiation. The two forces collided and twisted together like fighting snakes. The beam scattered, reformed, and exploded outward in a dome shape. "What's happening?" Zelthor shouted as alarm screamed throughout his ship. "The beam has destabilized. It's creating some kind of field." The purple energy dome expanded rapidly. It swallowed Pinewood Hollow in seconds. It kept growing, consuming trees and hills and Dale Hutchins' back 40 acres. Then it reached up and grabbed the scout ship like a giant hand. Emma watched in shock as a purple wall of light appeared around the entire town. It rose from the ground in a perfect circle, climbing higher and higher until it formed a dome overhead. The scout ship, which she could now clearly see was not a plane or satellite, got caught in the energy field. Purple lightning crackled around it. The ship spun wildly and fell from the sky like a stone. "What in the hell?" Emma whispered. The ship crashed into the forest about 3 miles outside town. Emma heard the impact even from Main Street. A pillar of black smoke rose above the tree line. Inside Rusty's watering hole, the lights flickered and died. People shouted in confusion. Someone's phone flashlight came on. Then another. Dale pushed his way outside and stopped dead when he saw the purple dome. "Travis, you seeing this?" "Yeah, brother. I'm seeing it." All along Main Street, people emerged from buildings and homes. They stared at the impossible wall of energy that now surrounded their town. Someone tried to drive their car toward the edge of town. The car's engine died 50 feet from the dome. The driver got out and walked closer. When he reached out to touch the purple barrier, blue sparks jumped from it. He yanked his hand back. "Can't get through," he shouted. It shocked me. Emma pulled out her radio. Dead. Her cell phone showed no signal. She tried calling out anyway. Nothing. "Everyone stay calm," she shouted. But her voice was lost in the rising panic. At the edge of town, near where the ship had crashed, Zelthor dragged himself from the wreckage. His right arm was broken, and his breathing apparatus was cracked. Around him, his crew emerged from the smoking hull. 3 were dead. The others were injured and confused. "Status report," Zelthor demanded, coughing. His second officer, Krell, checked a handheld device. "Commander, we're trapped. That energy field is impenetrable from the inside. Our long-range communications are blocked. The main fleet cannot reach us. What about the weapon? Can we shut it down? The weapon is on the main fleet, sir. We have no control over it from here. And there's worse news. Tell me. We're trapped in here with the humans. All of them. The dissolution beam failed completely. Zelthor felt his blood run cold. They were supposed to erase a town and collect data. Instead, they had crashed among the very beings they had tried to kill. Their ship was damaged. They were cut off from rescue. And the humans would soon come looking for whoever had put them in this prison. We need to secure a perimeter, Zelthor said, forcing himself to think tactically. Gather all weapons. We eliminate the humans before they can organize. It's our only option. Back in town, Emma had organized a meeting at the high school gym. Nearly everyone in Pinewood Hollow had shown up. The mood was part fear, part anger, and part confusion. All right, listen up, Emma shouted over the noise. We don't know what's happening, but we need to stay organized. Has anyone been able to get through that barrier? No, several voices answered. Cell phones? Dead. Internet? Nothing. An old man named Walter stood up. He had fought in Vietnam and still walked with a slight limp. Sheriff, I saw that ship come down. It wasn't one of ours. I know aircraft, and that was something else. You think it's aliens? Someone asked. I think something crashed in those woods, and right after that we got trapped in this purple snow globe, Walter said. Doesn't take a genius to connect the dots. Dale Hutchins raised his hand. That crash site is on my property. Back 40 near the old hunting cabin. Emma looked at him. You thinking what I'm thinking? I'm thinking whoever put us in here is probably hurt and confused. And I'm thinking they're on my land. Travis stood up next to his brother. We should go take a look. Now hold on, Emma started to say, but Bobby Patterson was already standing. Everyone called him Bull. He had been a Marine sergeant before retiring to Pinewood Hollow. He was 6 feet 4 inches of solid muscle and common sense. Emma, we need reconnaissance, Bull said. We need to know what we're dealing with. I can take a small group. We'll be careful. Emma wanted to argue, but she knew he was right. Fine, but you take radios even if they're not working right. And you take someone who knows those woods. I know every inch of my property, Dale said. I'm going. Within an hour, Bull had assembled a team of 6. They took hunting rifles, flashlights, and the kind of quiet confidence that comes from men who have spent their lives in the woods. They headed out as the moon rose over the purple dome. None of them knew that the Zarketh were already moving. And none of them knew that what would happen in the next few days would change everything humans thought they knew about their place in the universe. The Zarketh moved through the forest like shadows. Their armor made them nearly invisible in the darkness, and their weapons could punch through steel. Commander Zelthor led 15 of his soldiers toward the lights of the human settlement. The other 15 secured the crash site and tried to repair their communications equipment. Zelthor had studied human military tactics during the journey to Earth. He knew about their armies, their guns, their bombs, but this was not a military base. This was a small rural town. The humans here would be farmers and shopkeepers, weak, unprepared, easy to eliminate. He was about to learn how wrong he could be. Dale Hutchins knew every tree, every hill, and every creek on his property. He had hunted deer here since he was 12 years old. Now he moved through the darkness with Bull Patterson and 4 other men. They spread out in a loose line, using hand signals to communicate. The crash site was still 2 miles ahead, marked by the glow of fires. Hold up, Bull whispered. He raised his fist and everyone froze. He pointed to the ground. In the soft dirt was a footprint. It had 3 toes and was bigger than any boot print. We've got company. Dale knelt and touched the print. It was fresh. He looked around slowly, his hunting rifle ready. The forest was too quiet. No crickets. No night birds. Something had scared them all into silence. They're here, Dale breathed. The plasma bolt missed his head by 6 inches. It hit a tree behind him and the trunk exploded into flames. Suddenly the night lit up with purple and blue energy weapons fire. Contact, Bull shouted, diving behind a fallen log. Return fire. The men of Pinewood Hollow might not have had fancy armor or energy weapons, but they knew how to shoot. Their hunting rifles cracked in the darkness. Zelthor watched in surprise as his soldiers' energy shields flickered under the impact of primitive projectile weapons. The humans were shooting back, and they were good shots. Spread out, Zelthor ordered. Flank them! But the humans knew these woods. As the Zarketh soldiers moved to surround them, They walked into traps that Dale and his neighbors had set for deer and wild pigs. A soldier stepped on a concealed bear trap. The metal jaws snapped shut around his leg with a crunch. His scream echoed through the trees. "Fall back," Bull ordered. The humans retreated in good order, covering each other as they moved. They knew they were outgunned, but they had gotten what they came for: information. The Zarketh gave chase, but Dale led the group through a creek that hid their tracks. They zigzagged through heavy brush that the aliens had trouble navigating in their bulky armor. By the time Zelthor realized he had lost them, the humans were gone. "Commander," one of his soldiers said nervously, "those humans fought back, and they knew the terrain." "They're primitives," Zelthor snapped. "Next time we will be ready." But doubt had crept into his mind. The injured soldier was being carried back to the crash site, moaning in pain. The human trap had broken his leg in 3 places, and they had not killed a single human in the exchange. Back in Pinewood Hollow, Bull's team burst into the high school gym where most of the town was waiting. Everyone started talking at once. "What happened? Did you see them? Were those laser guns?" Emma fired her pistol into the air. The shot echoed in the gym and everyone went quiet. "Let them talk." Bull stepped forward. He was breathing hard, and his shirt was singed from a near miss. "We made contact. They're real. Aliens. Maybe 15 of them, heavily armed with energy weapons. They shot first, no warning. We engaged and withdrew. One of them is wounded from Dale's bear trap." "How advanced are they?" asked Mr. Kowalski, the chemistry teacher. He was a thin man with thick glasses who everyone thought was too smart for small-town life. "Their weapons are powerful," Bull said, "but their tactics are sloppy. They expected us to run. When we shot back, they seemed surprised. And they don't know the terrain. We do. Can we beat them?" someone asked. Bull was quiet for a moment. "I don't know. But I know we can make them bleed. And anything that bleeds can be killed." Dale held up something in his hand. "I got this from the wounded one. Fell off his belt when he went down." It was a small device covered in alien symbols and blinking lights. "Give that to me," Mr. Kowalski said. He took the device and examined it carefully. "This could be useful. If I can figure out how it works, maybe we can learn about their technology." Donna McAllister pushed through the crowd. Everyone called her Diesel because she could fix any engine ever made. She was 50 years old, built like a tank, and had hands permanently stained with motor oil. "We need to fortify the town. If they're coming, we need to be ready. What do you suggest?" Emma asked. "I've got 3 tractors at my shop. We can weld steel plates to them. Make them into tanks. We've got plenty of farm equipment we can weaponize. And I saw that Tommy Briggs has been making those pipe bombs for clearing stumps." "Those aren't legal," Emma said automatically. "Neither is shooting at people with laser guns." "But here we are," Diesel shot back. Emma sighed. Diesel was right. They were in a fight for survival. The rulebook had gone out the window the moment that purple dome appeared. "All right. Diesel, you organize our equipment. Dale, Travis, you know the woods. I need you to set up more traps around the perimeter. Mr. Kowalski, you work on that alien device. Bull, you're in charge of our defense. Pick your best shooters and set up firing positions." "What about the rest of us?" asked Mary Henderson, who ran the general store. "We need supplies organized. Food, water, medical gear. Rusty, your bar has the biggest basement in town. We'll use it as a shelter for anyone who can't fight." "My basement is full of beer," Rusty said. "Then we'll have plenty to celebrate with when this is over." Over the next 3 days, Pinewood Hollow transformed. The peaceful small town became a fortress. Dale and Travis set traps in every approach to town, pitfalls covered with branches, tripwires connected to homemade explosives, sharpened stakes hidden in tall grass. They treated it like hunting the biggest, most dangerous game of their lives. Diesel worked miracles. She took 3 John Deere tractors and turned them into armored vehicles. Welded steel plates covered the cabs. She mounted deer spotlights to blind enemies at night. She even figured out how to make a flamethrower using parts from a crop sprayer and some gasoline. Mr. Kowalski made progress with the alien device. It seemed to be some kind of communicator. He could not understand the language, but he recorded all the signals it transmitted and received. More importantly, he discovered something interesting. When he poured moonshine on it by accident, the device sparked and died. "The alcohol interferes with their electronics," he told Emma excitedly. "The high-proof spirits create some kind of reaction with their technology. I think we can weaponize this." "You want to fight aliens with moonshine?" Emma asked. I want to short-circuit their equipment with it. Old Man Tucker makes 180-proof corn liquor in his shed. If we can get enough of it, we could make bullets that disrupt their shields and weapons." Emma shook her head in disbelief. "Only in Pinewood Hollow would we fight an alien invasion with illegal moonshine." But she gave the order. Old Man Tucker fired up his still and started producing moonshine like his life depended on it. Because it did. The Zarketh were having their own problems. Commander Zelthor had lost 3 more soldiers to human traps. One had fallen into a pit lined with punji stakes. Another had triggered an explosive that sent a tree crashing down on him. The third had simply disappeared. They found his body 2 days later hanging from a tree with a rope around his neck. The humans had set a snare trap meant for deer and caught an alien instead. "These humans are more dangerous than we thought," Krell said quietly. "Perhaps we should try to negotiate." "Negotiate?" Zelthor roared. "We are Zarketh. We do not negotiate with primitives. We will attack their settlement tomorrow. Full force. We will destroy them all." But Krell was not the only one having doubts. The soldiers whispered among themselves. They had expected an easy mission. Now they were trapped, cut off from rescue, losing soldiers to primitive traps and facing an enemy that refused to surrender. In Pinewood Hollow, Bull gathered his fighters. They numbered 45 people. Men and women, young and old, all of them armed, all of them determined. "They're coming tomorrow," Bull said. "I can feel it. They're getting desperate. We've hurt them and they want revenge. So here's what we're going to do." He spread a map of the town on a table. "We're going to let them come. And then we're going to show them what happens when you mess with Pinewood Hollow." The attack came at dawn. Zelthor led all 27 of his remaining soldiers in a coordinated assault on Pinewood Hollow. They moved in 3 groups, approaching from different directions. Their energy weapons were fully charged. Their armor was intact. They were ready to end this embarrassment. What they found was an empty town. "Where are they?" Krell whispered as they moved down Main Street. The storefronts were dark. No lights in any windows. No movement anywhere. "Spread out and search," Zelthor ordered. "They're hiding." The Zarketh split up and began kicking in doors. They searched the bar, the general store, the hardware shop. All empty. Zelthor felt unease growing in his gut. This was wrong. Where had the humans gone? Tyler Henderson crouched on the roof of the hardware store with his drone controller. The 15-year-old had the best eyes in town and steady hands. He watched the aliens through his drone's camera as they walked into the trap. He waited until they were exactly where Bull wanted them. Then he pressed the button on his radio transmitter. "Now," he whispered. The street exploded. Dale and Travis had spent 2 days burying improvised explosives under the asphalt of Main Street. Old propane tanks packed with nails and ball bearings, fertilizer bombs borrowed from farming supplies, even a few sticks of dynamite that Dale's grandfather had kept hidden in his barn since the 1960s, all of it wired together and waiting for the signal. The first explosion lifted 3 Zarketh soldiers off their feet and threw them through a storefront window. The second took out 2 more. The third, fourth, and fifth detonated in sequence, turning Main Street into a storm of fire and shrapnel. The aliens' energy shields flickered and died under the assault. They scrambled for cover, but there was none. They had walked into a killing zone. "Fire!" Bull shouted from his position in the church bell tower. 45 rifles opened up from rooftops, windows, and hidden positions. The humans had set up overlapping fields of fire that covered every angle. They poured lead into the confused aliens. The Zarketh returned fire, their plasma bolts scorching wood and brick, but they were exposed and panicking. Diesel McAllister roared onto Main Street in her armored tractor. The welded steel plates deflected plasma fire as she charged straight at a group of aliens. They scattered. But she caught one with the tractor's front loader, scooping him up and smashing him against a building. The alien's armor cracked like an egg. "Yeehaw!" Diesel screamed, spinning the tractor around for another pass. Mr. Kowalski appeared from behind the bank with a fire extinguisher that had been modified into a weapon. It was filled with Old Man Tucker's moonshine. He sprayed 3 aliens who were trying to regroup. The alcohol soaked through their armor and equipment. Their weapons sparked and died. Their communicators fizzled out. They looked at their useless technology in shock. "Science!" Mr. Kowalski yelled, then ran back to cover. Dale and Travis emerged from underground storm drains behind the alien formation. They carried shotguns loaded with shells they had packed themselves. Shells filled with rock salt and moonshine. They fired at point-blank range into the aliens' backs. The moonshine did its work, shorting out shields and electronics. The rock salt did the rest, causing pain and confusion. Zelthor realized they were being slaughtered. His tactical display was dead from the moonshine spray. His soldiers were scattered and dying. The humans had turned their own town into a death trap. "Retreat," he screamed. "Back to the ship." The Zarketh ran. They left 7 dead on Main Street and carried 5 wounded. Bull did not order pursuit. He had made his point. The humans emerged from hiding and surveyed the battlefield. They had lost no one. 3 people had minor injuries from flying debris, that was all. "We did it," someone said in disbelief. "We won," someone else added. Then everyone was cheering and hugging and crying with relief. They had faced an alien invasion and survived. More than survived. They had won. Bull climbed down from the bell tower and walked over to one of the dead aliens. He studied the body carefully. The armor was advanced, no question. But underneath, the alien was not so different. It had blood. It had bones. It could be hurt and killed just like anything else. "Bull," Emma called. She was standing over a wounded alien who had been too injured to retreat. The creature was conscious and staring at her with 3 terrified eyes. "What do we do with this one?" "We keep him," Bull said. "Maybe we can learn something. Mr. Kowalski, can you rig up that translator thing you've been working on?" "I can try," the teacher said, kneeling next to the wounded alien. This might take some time. They carried the alien to the high school and locked him in the equipment room. Mr. Kowalski spent the next 3 days working with the captured communicator and the alien's own translator device. It was like solving the hardest puzzle in the universe, but slowly he began to make progress. The alien's name was Tresh. He was young for his species and had only been with the military for 2 standard cycles. He was terrified of the humans but also fascinated by them. When Mr. Kowalski finally got the translator working well enough for basic communication, Tresh talked. "We came to destroy your settlement," Tresh said through the crackling translator. "It was a test. The weapon was supposed to erase everything." "Why?" Emma asked. "We didn't do anything to you." "Because Command ordered it. Because we wanted to test the weapon on a real population. Because you are considered primitive and expendable." "How'd that work out for you?" Dale asked dryly. Tresh made a sound that the translator interpreted as bitter laughter. "We underestimated you. We thought you would be helpless. Instead, you have killed nearly half our force with primitive weapons and tactics. Commander Zelthor does not understand how this is possible. Where we come from, we learn to fight early," Bull said. "We hunt, we defend our homes. We don't quit just because someone has better technology. The fleet in orbit cannot penetrate the dome," Tresh continued. "We are trapped here together. Zelthor wants to kill all of you and wait for rescue. But I think that is impossible now. You are too strong. What do you want?" Emma asked the alien. Tresh was quiet for a long moment. "I want to survive. I never wanted to kill anyone. I was just following orders. But orders seem meaningless now." Emma looked at Bull. They had a silent conversation with their eyes. Finally, Emma nodded. "If we let you help us, if you turn against your commander, would you do it?" "What do you mean?" "We need information about that dome. How it works. How to bring it down. Help us and we'll protect you. Keep fighting us and you'll die with the rest of your soldiers." Tresh thought about this. He thought about Zelthor's increasingly desperate orders. He thought about watching his friends die to human traps and bullets. He thought about the possibility of surviving this nightmare. "I will help you," he said finally. Over the next week, Tresh told them everything he knew about the dome, the weapon system, and Zarketh technology. Mr. Kowalski took notes frantically. Some of it was beyond their current understanding, but some of it made sense. The dome was being powered by the interaction between the crashed scout ship's reactor and the weapon system in orbit. It was an unintended feedback loop. "So if we shut down the reactor, the dome might fall?" Emma asked. "Or explode and kill everyone inside," Tresh said honestly. "The energy has to go somewhere. It would be very dangerous." "Everything about this situation is dangerous," Diesel said. She had been studying the alien technology Tresh described. "But I think I might be able to do something. If we can get to that crashed ship." "Zelthor has it heavily guarded," Tresh warned. "He will not let you approach." "Then we'll have to convince him otherwise," Bull said with a grim smile. Tyler had been using his drone to spy on the crash site for days. The remaining 20 aliens were dug in, using the wrecked ship as a fortress. They had set up energy barriers and defensive positions. They were not coming out, and they were not letting anyone in. We could try another assault, Dale suggested. Too risky, Bull said. We got lucky on Main Street because they came to us. If we attack them in their fortress, we'll lose people. Good people? There has to be another way. What if we didn't attack? Tyler said quietly. Everyone looked at the teenager. What if we talked to them instead? Talked to them? Travis said. They tried to kill us. Yeah, but they failed. And they're stuck here too. Tresh said some of the soldiers are having doubts. What if they don't all want to keep fighting? Emma considered this. It was risky, but Tyler had a point. The aliens were trapped and running out of options. Maybe not all of them were fanatics like their commander. It's worth a try, she said. But we'll need leverage. Something to show them we're serious about ending this peacefully but ready to end it violently if we have to. Diesel grinned. I think I know just the thing. That night, the people of Pinewood Hollow worked on a project that would have seemed insane a month ago. Using parts from the crashed alien scout ship that they had secretly salvaged, Diesel and Mr. Kowalski built something new. They mounted it on the biggest tractor in town and painted a message on the side in both English and alien symbols that Tresh helped them translate. The message read, "Let's talk or we use this." At dawn, Diesel drove the tractor to within shouting distance of the alien camp. Behind the tractor was mounted a cannon. Not just any cannon. A cannon built from alien technology combined with human ingenuity and a whole lot of moonshine. It probably would not work. But the alien commander Zelthor stared at the human vehicle from behind his defensive barrier. The weapon mounted on it looked crude, but it was definitely built from Zarketh technology. How had they managed that? His crew had been desperately trying to repair their own equipment with limited success, and these primitives had built a functioning weapon system in less than a week. Do not respond, Zelthor told his soldiers. It's a trick, but Krell was looking at the same weapon with growing concern. Commander, if they have figured out how to use our technology, we are in serious danger. We should at least hear what they want. We do not negotiate with primitives. These primitives have killed 13 of our soldiers, Krell said quietly. We started with 30. We are now 17. How many more must die before you admit we cannot win? Zelthor turned on his second officer with rage in his 3 eyes. But he saw the same expression on every soldier's face. They were exhausted, frightened, trapped, and they had lost faith in his leadership. Fine, Zelthor spat. But I lead the negotiation, and we give them nothing. He walked out from behind the barrier with his hands raised, showing he was unarmed. Emma climbed down from the tractor and met him in the open ground between their positions. Bull and Dale flanked her, rifles ready. Krell and another soldier flanked Zelthor. This was the first time Emma had seen one of the aliens up close in daylight. Zelthor stood about 7 feet tall with gray skin and 3 eyes arranged in a triangle on his face. He wore battle armor that had seen better days. It was scorched and dented from combat. I am Commander Zelthor of the Zarketh Expeditionary Fleet, he said through his translator. His voice was deep and filled with barely controlled anger. You have exactly 1 minute to explain why I should not kill you where you stand. Because you can't, Emma said calmly. You've tried. 3 times now, and each time we've beaten you back. You've lost half your soldiers. We've lost nobody. Those are the facts. We have superior technology that we've already figured out how to use against you, Emma interrupted, pointing at the mounted weapon. We have your translator, your communicator, and one of your soldiers who decided he'd rather live than follow your suicide mission. So let's skip the posturing and talk about reality. Zelthor's mandibles twitched with rage, but he said nothing. We're trapped in here together, Emma continued. We didn't ask for this. You created this dome when your weapon malfunctioned. Now we're all prisoners. We can keep killing each other until there's nobody left, or we can work together to find a way out. Why would we trust you? Krell asked. His voice was calmer than his commander's. Because we have your soldier Tresh and he's alive and healthy, Emma said. We could have killed him. We didn't. Because unlike you, we don't murder people just to test our weapons. Zelthor flinched at that. For the first time, Emma saw something other than arrogance in his eyes. She saw shame. The dome is powered by your crashed ship's reactor interacting with your orbital weapon, Emma continued. Our people have been studying the problem. We think we can collapse the dome safely, but we need access to your ship's systems. Work with us and we all go home. Fight us and we all die here. And if the dome collapses, Krell said slowly, the fleet in orbit will destroy this town and everyone in it. Maybe, Emma admitted. But at least we'll have a chance. Right now, we have no chance at all. And I'd rather die trying to escape than waste away in this prison. There was a long silence. Emma could hear the morning birds singing in the trees. It felt strange to discuss life and death while nature continued on as if nothing was wrong. I need to discuss this with my soldiers, Zelthor said finally. You have 1 hour, Emma replied. After that, we assume your answer is no and we do this the hard way. The two groups separated. Emma walked back to the tractor where her people waited anxiously. Think he'll agree? Dale asked. I think he's desperate, Emma said. And desperate people make mistakes or smart choices. We'll see which one he makes. At the alien camp, a heated argument was underway. More than half the soldiers wanted to accept the human offer. They were tired of fighting an enemy they could not defeat. They wanted to go home. This is cowardice, Zelthor roared. We are Zarketh warriors. We do not surrender to primitives. Then we die to primitives, Krell said bluntly. Is that better, Commander? Does it restore your honor to lead us all to death? I will not work with these animals. These animals have defeated us at every turn, another soldier said. Perhaps it is time to admit we are not superior to them. Just different. Zelthor looked around at his remaining soldiers. He saw it in their eyes. They had already decided. They were going to work with the humans with or without his approval. His command was finished. Fine, he said bitterly. We will help them. But know this. When the fleet learns of our failure, we will all be executed for incompetence. Perhaps, Krell said, but at least we will die on our own world and not in this alien forest. When the hour was up, Krell walked out alone to meet Emma. We accept your offer. What do you need from us? Over the next 2 weeks, an impossible partnership formed. Zarketh soldiers and Pinewood Hollow residents worked side by side. Mr. Kowalski and Diesel spent long hours with alien engineers, sharing knowledge and ideas. Tresh acted as translator and mediator when cultural misunderstandings arose, which was often. The plan was complex. They needed to modify the scout ship's reactor to emit a specific frequency that would harmonically cancel the dome's energy signature. It was like tuning a guitar string to match another string so perfectly that both vibrations would cancel each other out. In theory, the dome would collapse safely. In practice, nobody was quite sure what would happen. Tyler's drone flew constant surveillance of the dome's energy patterns. He mapped out fluctuations and weak points. Mary Henderson, who ran the general store, organized supply runs and made sure both humans and aliens were fed. Rusty opened his bar to everyone, and humans and aliens began sharing drinks and stories. One evening, Dale found himself sitting next to a Zarketh soldier named Vex. They were both working on welding a new power coupling for the ship. Neither spoke the other's language well, but they communicated through gestures and shared frustration with the difficult work. Your world, Vex said slowly through his translator. It is beautiful, green, full of life. My world is mostly desert and mountains. I joined military to see other places. How's that working out for you? Dale asked with a slight smile. Vex made the sound that passed for laughter among his people. Not as I imagined, but also interesting. Humans are strange. You fight so hard. Never give up. Even when you should be afraid, you make jokes and drink alcohol and laugh. Life's too short to spend it being scared, Dale said. Might as well enjoy the parts you can. This is wisdom, Vex said thoughtfully. Perhaps that is why you won. We didn't win, Dale corrected him. We survived. There's a difference. Not everyone was happy about the cooperation. Zelthor watched his soldiers fraternizing with the humans and felt disgust. But he said nothing. He had no authority left. The soldiers barely acknowledged his presence anymore. They took orders from Krell now. The work continued. The reactor was nearly ready. But there was still one problem. The dome collapse would require someone to manually calibrate the reactor from inside the ship at the exact moment of shutdown. The energy feedback would be immense. That person would almost certainly die. I will do it, Zelthor announced when the team gathered to discuss the problem. It is my responsibility. I created this disaster. I will end it. Everyone was surprised. Zelthor had been sullen and silent for days. Now he was volunteering for a suicide mission. Why? Emma asked simply. Because it is the honorable thing to do, Zelthor said. I led my soldiers into this trap. I tried to murder innocents to test a weapon. I was arrogant and foolish. This is my chance to correct that mistake. Krell put a hand on his commander's shoulder. You were following orders. We all were. Following evil orders does not absolve us of responsibility, Zelthor replied. I should have refused. I should have protected the weak instead of trying to destroy them. I understand that now. Emma looked at the alien commander with new respect. We appreciate the offer, but we're not letting anyone die if we can help it. Our people are working on a remote activation system. If we can get it working, nobody has to stay in the ship. And if it does not work, then we draw straws like civilized people, Bull said. Nobody decides who dies alone. 3 more days of frantic work followed. Diesel performed miracles of engineering. Mr. Kowalski worked calculations until his eyes burned. The Zarketh engineers contributed knowledge that humans would not discover for another 100 years, and Tyler's young mind saw connections that older, more rigid thinkers missed. Finally, they were ready. The remote activation system was installed. The reactor was calibrated. The frequency generator was in place. Everything was set. They would attempt the dome collapse at dawn. That night, the entire town gathered in Rusty's bar. Humans and aliens filled every chair, table, and avay. The sun rose over Pinewood Hollow on a morning that would change everything. Emma stood in the town square surrounded by humans and Zarketh alike. Everyone was quiet. Everyone was nervous. In 30 minutes, they would either be free or dead. Mr. Kowalski checked his calculations one more time. His hands were shaking. The math says this should work. Should being the key word. We're trying to collapse an energy field that should not exist in the first place using technology we barely understand. There are 1,000 ways this could go wrong. But there's one way it could go right, Diesel said, putting a grease-stained hand on his shoulder. Focus on that. At the crash site, the reactor hummed with power. Modifications covered every surface of the ship like technological ivy. Cables ran from the reactor to the frequency generator that Tyler and the alien engineers had built together. It looked like something from a mad scientist's laboratory, dangerous and beautiful at the same time. Remote activation system is online, Tyler reported from his control station. He had his laptop connected to the alien ship's computer through a series of adapters that should not have worked, but somehow did. I have full control. Everyone to your positions, Bull ordered. If this works, we need to be ready for whatever happens next. If it doesn't work, he did not finish the sentence. Everyone knew what he meant. The humans and Zarketh spread out around the perimeter of town. They carried weapons but also fire extinguishers, medical supplies, and emergency equipment. Nobody knew what the dome collapse would look like or what destruction it might cause. All stations report ready, Emma said into her radio. The responses came back one by one. Everyone was ready. As ready as they could be. Tyler, Emma said quietly. Whenever you're ready. The teenage boy took a deep breath. His finger hovered over the enter key. One press would start the sequence. No going back after that. He thought about his mom, his little sister, all the people depending on him. Then he pressed the key. Sequence initiated, Tyler said. Reactor ramping to full power. Frequency generator activating in 10 seconds. The reactor's hum changed pitch. It climbed higher and higher until it was almost painful to hear. The ship began to glow with purple light that spread out like ripples in a pond. The frequency generator kicked on with a sound like 1,000 guitars all playing the same note. Energy feedback is within acceptable limits, Mr. Kowalski read from his instruments. Frequency matches. It's perfect. Tyler, how did you get the frequency match so perfect? I tuned it like a guitar, Tyler said with a shrug. My dad taught me. You just listen until it sounds right. The purple dome began to pulse in rhythm with the frequency generator. Each pulse made the dome shimmer and distort. The energy was building. The resonance was working, but there was a problem. We have a feedback spike, one of the Zarketh engineers shouted. The orbital weapon is responding to our signal. It's trying to reinforce the dome. Can we compensate? Emma demanded. Not remotely, Mr. Kowalski said, staring at his readings in horror. Someone needs to manually adjust the reactor core. Right now, or the dome will solidify permanently. Everyone looked at each other. The ship was glowing so bright it hurt to look at. Energy was crackling around it in purple lightning. Going inside now would be suicide. Zelthor started running toward the ship before anyone could stop him. Commander, no, Krell shouted, but Zelthor did not stop. He ran through the energy field surrounding the ship. His armor sparked and smoked. He crashed through the damaged hull and disappeared inside. "What's he doing?" Dale yelled. "Manual adjustment on the reactor core," Krell said quietly. "It requires turning 3 control rods simultaneously. One person cannot reach all 3. It is impossible." Inside the ship, Zelthor staggered through smoke and sparks. The heat was incredible. His armor was melting. His skin was burning, but he kept moving. He reached the reactor chamber and looked at the 3 control rods. Krell was right. They were too far apart for one person to reach. But Zelthor was not alone. Diesel McAllister came through the hatch behind him, her arms wrapped in fire blankets. "Which ones?" She shouted over the screaming noise. "You should not be here," Zelthor yelled back. "Yeah, well, I'm bad at taking orders." "Which ones?" Zelthor pointed. Diesel moved to one control rod. Zelthor positioned himself between the other 2, stretching his long arms to their limits. "On my count, 3, 2, 1, turn." They turned the control rods together. The reactor's pitch changed instantly. The purple glow shifted to blue. The energy feedback stabilized. Outside, everyone watched as the dome began to crack like glass. Fracture lines appeared and spread across its entire surface. Then, with a sound like the world's biggest mirror shattering, the dome collapsed. Purple energy rained down in harmless sparks that faded before touching the ground. The dome was gone. They were free. Cheering erupted from both humans and Zarketh. People hugged and cried and laughed, but Emma was running toward the ship with Bull right behind her. They found Diesel and Zelthor collapsed near the reactor. Both were badly burned. Both were barely conscious, but both were alive. "Get the medical teams here now," Emma screamed into her radio. They carried the 2 heroes out of the smoking ship and laid them on the grass. Mary Henderson, who had been a nurse before opening her store, took charge. She worked on Diesel while a Zarketh medic treated Zelthor. Both would survive, though the scars would last forever. "Stupid," Diesel mumbled through her oxygen mask. "Stupidest thing I ever did." "Bravest thing I ever saw," Emma said, squeezing her hand. But the celebration was short-lived. Above the town, the Zarketh fleet was moving. Ships descended from orbit, weapons charging. "Without the dome, Pinewood Hollow was defenseless. Here we go again," Bull said, raising his rifle. But Krell stepped forward. He had taken a communicator from the crashed scout ship and was activating it. "Fleet Command, this is Second Officer Krell. Do not fire. Repeat, do not fire. I am transmitting a data package. You need to see what happened here." Tyler had been recording everything with his drone. Every battle, every trap, every moment of cooperation. Hours of footage showing a small human town defeating a Zarketh military unit through tactics, courage, and pure stubborn determination, and then working together to escape. The data package uploaded to the fleet. There was a long silence. Then a new voice came over the communicator. Older, more authoritative. "This is Fleet Admiral Zektos. I have reviewed your data. This is unprecedented. Stand by for further orders." Everyone waited. The fleet ships held position but did not fire. Minutes passed like hours. Finally, the Admiral spoke again. "Commander Zelthor attempted to use a weapon of mass destruction on an unarmed population center. This is a war crime under Galactic Council law. However, I see that he also sacrificed himself to save both species when the situation demanded it. The Council will decide his fate." "What about us?" Emma called out. "What happens to Pinewood Hollow?" "This incident will be reported to the Galactic Council," the Admiral said. "But I will include in my report that humanity fought with honor when attacked, showed mercy to captured enemies, and worked cooperatively with Zarketh forces when necessary. Normally, a species must reach a certain level of technology before they are contacted, but you have now been contacted, and you have proven yourselves capable of defending your world. So you're leaving us alone?" Bull asked. "I am recommending to the Council that Earth be granted protected status. No hostile action will be taken against your world. However, you are also not advanced enough for full Council membership. Consider this a probationary period. We will be watching." The fleet began to withdraw, but 3 ships landed in the field outside town. Medical teams emerged to treat the wounded Zarketh soldiers. Repair crews began salvaging the crashed scout ship, and a diplomatic team approached the town square with Krell leading the way. "We will take our soldiers home," Krell said, "but some have requested to remain as observers, as teachers, if you will have them." Emma looked at her town. at the damaged buildings and scorched streets, at the exhausted people who had fought so hard. Any of your people who want to stay are welcome, but they better be willing to work. We've got a lot of rebuilding to do. I will stay, Krell said immediately. I wish to learn more about humanity. You fascinate me. I as well, Tresh added, if you will have me. Over the next few months, Pinewood Hollow became famous across 2 worlds. The town that fought back against an alien invasion and won. News crews came from all over Earth. Government officials asked a million questions. Scientists studied the alien technology that remained, but life eventually returned to normal, or as normal as it could be with 4 Zarketh residents. Krell took a job helping Mr. Kowalski teach science at the high school. Tresh worked with Diesel at her garage, learning to fix Earth vehicles while teaching alien engineering principles. The other 2 Zarketh rotated between different jobs, always learning, always sharing knowledge. The Galactic Council officially granted Earth-protected status. No hostile species could attack the planet without facing Council sanctions. But Earth was also not advanced enough for membership. Humanity was on its own to develop and grow. Dale and Travis expanded their farm and started growing crops using Zarketh hydroponics technology. Old Man Tucker discovered that his moonshine was considered a delicaire.